everyone, thanks so much for clicking on this episode of Behind the Movie. I'm your host, Jennifer, and today's episode is going to be a little bit different than my other ones. I cleverly titled this Behind the Podcast because today I'm going to kind of give some announcements, why I've been gone for a little bit, and also just answer some questions that you guys gave me on my Instagram, which if you guys aren't following is at JenniferVMovies. And before we get started with all of that, I just wanted to say that you guys can support the podcast by heading over to anchor.fm/behindthemovie and giving us a follow there, or if you want to go the extra mile, you can support the podcast by giving a small monthly donation to help fund future episodes with that same link, anchor.fm/behindthemovie. And yeah, let's just get into the episode. So if you guys are new here, in this podcast, I basically talk about a movie and talk about all the behind the scenes facts, and I usually have a guest with me to discuss the movie as well. So it's always like a fun time. We talk about a different movie every single time. So that's why today's a little bit different, because I'm just kind of going to have a conversation with you all and answer a few questions and just give some other updates. This podcast is a weekly podcast, but I've been gone for like a little over a month, I think so, and I just wanted to say that I'm really sorry about that. This podcast has been doing really well, and that's also a reason why I wanted to answer some questions, because my average audience size is about over 100 people, which is just crazy that many people are listening to my podcast, so thank you so much, first of all. I've been gone just because I was having a little bit trouble balancing the podcast with my YouTube videos and all of that, but I finally figured out something, and I have planned a bunch of episodes, and I've also started contacting a bunch of different guests that I'm so excited for you all to hear about, and it's just gonna be a lot of fun. So I just wanted to just say that the podcast is back to being weekly. If you're new to the podcast and how the episodes work, every single Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, you can find a new episode on listening platforms such as Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and more. They're all linked down below. And also you can find us always on anchor.fm/behindthemovie. That's kind of like the main landing page of the podcast. And I also post certain episodes on Sundays on my YouTube channel, which is just Jennifer Vega if you don't know me from YouTube. And the link to that is also down below. And I only post certain episodes, so if you guys are watching from YouTube and you want to listen to all the episodes, and you definitely want to check out the podcast on the listening platforms. And also if you just want to listen to them early, they'll always be on the listening platforms first. And now we're gonna get into the questions. This episode, like I said, is gonna be super casual, and I actually am also posting this on YouTube, so whether you're listening or watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoy. I haven't done a Q&A on YouTube in a very long time, I think since I hit 100 subscribers, and that was like a year ago. And these questions you guys asked me like a month ago on my Instagram, and I'm just excited to answer these questions. Even if you do know me from YouTube, I've gained a lot of new viewers in the past couple of weeks, and I feel like this is just a good way to introduce the podcast to you, and also just introduce who I am, who's doing these videos, and who's doing these podcasts. So yeah, let's just get started. So the first question that I got, which I was so happy to get, is what inspired you to create this podcast? And obviously I love movies. Like, that's the main reason why I'm on YouTube and why I'm on Instagram and why I do a lot of the things that I do. But my love for movie came because I loved researching behind the scene facts about movies. Back when The Impossible came out, when I saw that movie, the day after, I pretty much spent the entire day looking up videos on how they made everything, all the actors talking about their experience in the movie, the director, the writer, and I did that for literally like every single movie that I watched, and I would compare how much budget they had to how much they ended up making. Like, I just loved looking at all of the behind the scenes stuff about movies. And with that being said, I also just really think that like it inspired me a lot to be a filmmaker, because I do want to be a filmmaker, and looking on how directors move the camera and them explaining certain things, it helped me a lot in just realizing that that's something that I really want to do. And with the podcast, I genuinely just wanted to share my love for behind the scene facts with you guys. I also really loved, or I should say still really love, to compare movies to what inspired them. So like, most movies are based off books, and I used to really want to literally read every single book that movies were inspired by to do the comparison. And also like certain cases that happen like based on true events, movies are some of my favorites, just because this girl right here loves researching literally everything, and some of you guys have even reached out and said that you've learned a lot about movies, which is just awesome, because that's always what I want to like get out of each episode, that you guys learn something new. And also, I really wanted to start this podcast because a lot of the movies that I do want to talk about are horror movies, and horror is my favorite genre. A lot of you guys already know that. If you didn't know that, I love horror like a lot. And A lot of horror movies get a lot of bad rep, and I just wanted to make this podcast because a lot of horror movies, whether you hate them or love them, take so much work to just create what the movie is, and I know that's the case with every single movie, but especially horror movies. I hate them being like, I hate when horror movies are just like destroyed and they're talked about extremely badly, but people don't even know like what it took to get a certain shot, or how like the director was literally had no budget but still made something that's considered a cult classic. Like, a lot of my favorite facts about movies come from horror movies, and that's just like a lot of reasons why I started this podcast. Similar to why I started my YouTube, I literally talk to everybody about movies, so why not share it with the world? On my channel I do a lot of reviews of a lot of different movies, and I never really have time to talk about everything that it took to make a movie, and my podcast is just a really nice and easy way to do that and just give you guys some bonus content. So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with Behind the Movie as so far, and I can't wait to see where it goes and how much it continues to grow. So another question I got was, what's your all-time favorite movie franchise? And when I got this question, I was like, I don't know what to say, because so many franchises come to mind. Indiana Jones, Scream, Star Wars, Marvel. There are so many franchises that I enjoy a lot, but the one that I have to go with is Harry Potter. Harry Potter is not only my favorite book franchise, but also my favorite movie franchise, because it is my favorite world ever. I love Hogwarts. I grew up on these books. I read them when I was in 4th grade, and I finished them by the time I was like in early 5th grade, and they literally shaped who I am. Like, every single part of me comes from Harry Potter, because it not only made me a huge book lover, Harry Potter just sparked that in me. And then I also just learned the beauty of film with these movies, because I think these movies are some of the best made movies ever, and I love them so much. I just love the characters so much, and like, it's just, Harry Potter to me is like a big warm hug. Even though there are a lot of sad moments, don't get me wrong, this franchise also breaks my heart, but it just reminds me of like a lot of good time. I grew up on both the books and the movies, and they're literally like my favorite thing in the entire world. I love Harry Potter so much, and my favorite Harry Potter movie is actually Prisoner of Azkaban. I love that movie. I need to definitely do at one point like a franchise review of the entire franchise, because it is so good. This franchise is incredible, and if you still haven't seen Harry Potter, I highly recommend it. Another question that I got is, best movie you watched for the first time in 2021. And I've seen a lot of really great movies this year, but I have to go with one that I saw last week, which is Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring. And yeah, it's 2021 and I still haven't seen Lord of the Rings, but I'm clearly changing that right now. I'm also currently halfway done with The Two Towers. The movies are long and I'm watching them with my family, so we kind of like watch half of it and then the next day we watch another half. So tonight I'm going to finish that movie, so make sure to go on Letterboxd and check out my review. But what a movie. Like, what an incredible movie. I can't believe it took me this long to watch it, because I know if I had seen this at the time I saw Harry Potter, I would have probably said The Lord of the Rings is my favorite movie franchise along with Harry Potter. The world building is incredible. Some of the best world building I've ever seen, and I actually took a film class 2 semesters ago, and my professor kept talking about Lord of the Rings over and over again, and how he says that that was one of the best movies he's ever seen in theaters, and I could see why. These movies look so good, and still, to this day, they look incredible. It's been like, what, 20 years? Or almost 20 years? I think the first one came out in 2001, I believe, and incredible. Like, they look so good. And I'm just so excited for everything that's gonna happen. And I love the movie's length because it just perfectly lets us just sit in this world and explore everything. And also all these characters. I love every single aspect of this movie so much. And that score is beautiful. I've been listening to the score for a really long time, way before I've seen the movies. And now that I have seen at least the first movie, it's awesome. A lot of people on my Letterboxd, when I reviewed Fellowship of the Ring, told me they were excited for me to see The Return of the King, and I'm really excited to see that as well because I've heard so many good things. Somebody asked what is my favorite subgenre of horror, and I cannot just choose one, but I'm going to say paranormal, psychological, and slasher. And fun fact, I used to hate slashers when I was younger. I got into horror at a very young age. I was probably like 11 years old when I really got into horror. I used to hate slashers. For the longest time, I thought they were really stupid and I just didn't understand them, but that quickly changed when I saw, let me show y'all, Scream. To the people listening, I just pulled out my Scream 3 movie collection set, and actually, I just recently bought the 4K steelbook that's coming out. It's on pre-sale right now on Amazon. I'm gonna link it down below in case you guys want it, but I ordered that because, my god, I'm so excited to watch that in 4K. But anyway, back to this. When I saw Scream, my whole perception of slashers changed. Scream is one of my favorite movies of all time, and that's why now it's one of my favorite subgenres. On some days, I will say that slasher is my top favorite subgenre, but I also really love paranormal. That's the one that I just started loving since I watched horror, and I think when you mix slasher and paranormal and with some psychological in there, it's like chef's kiss. It's perfection. But psychological horror is also my favorite. I just really love psychological movies in general. I think when a filmmaker is able to really get into your mind and into the minds of characters, it's really hard to do, and it's something that I admire just a lot. And talking about horror, somebody asked what makes the horror genre so special to you, and it's probably the first genre that I was really obsessed with and really exposed to, and it's also the genre that, in my opinion, it's the hardest for any filmmaker to make, and I always admire filmmakers for making a horror movie because I've tried to write so many horror movies and make so many horror movies myself, and it's hard. It's very hard to get a really good script and a good plot for just a horror movie, and so many filmmakers are so talented and just make some of the most masterful horror films ever made. And horror is also just a genre that has gotten me to have such interesting conversations with people that are now my best friends, and it's just, I love talking about horror movies because my family taught me how cool horror movies are. Horror is just what really got me into filmmaking. It's more specifically with The Shining. When I saw that movie, I literally finished it and I was like, yeah, I want to go to film school. And here we are in 2021, and I'm starting my sophomore year in film school in a week. Somebody asked probably my favorite question, which is, if you were to become a Hollywood director, what would be your first movie genre? And are we surprised it's horror? I'd love to make a horror sci-fi movie, if that makes sense. Kind of like Donnie Darko vibes. That's my favorite movie of all time. I love that movie because it blends in so many genres and subgenres that I just enjoy and perfectly balances them all. I just really want to make a trippy horror movie, a psychological, out of this world that would just make you go what? Kind of like what The Shining does to me, what Get Out does to me. Why am I not thinking? Oh, what Silence of the Lambs does to me. A lot of my favorite movies are horror movies, and they're the type of movies that I want to make, but obviously with my own spin. And another question that I got is, what's a movie that you were not expecting to like as much as you did? And I literally don't know. I should have probably pre-planned my answers to this, but I'm on my phone right now because I'm gonna go through my letterbox and basically just kind of see what I'm going to pick, because I genuinely because I genuinely don't know which one. Give me just 5 seconds.
12 seconds later.
I'm gonna go with Zack Snyder's Justice League, and the reason I say this is because I am not a fan of DC. Pretty much not that much. I kind of started getting into it this year because I'm reading a lot of movies. I've seen pretty much every single DCEU movie except the bad Suicide Squad. I saw The Suicide Squad and it's one of my favorite movies of the year. I love that movie. But I didn't think I was gonna like Zack Snyder's Justice League at all, and I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5. I don't know how much I would rate it now on rewatch, but I really liked that movie. I honestly didn't think it was going to be that good. People were hyping it up so much, and me not really being into DC that much, I was like, oh, this movie's kind of not going to be great. I'm probably not even going to enjoy it. But I was very wrong, because I really, really did enjoy this movie. I think it has a near perfect 3-act structure. It's really awesome. The character work in this movie is great. I love the directing. This movie is awesome, and I'm happy that Zack Snyder was able to release his version of the movie instead of whatever bad stuff they released in 2016, 2017, I don't know what year it came out in, but that one was terrible. This one is a near perfect superhero movie. The next question that I got is, what's your least favorite movie of all time? And this one's also hard because there are definitely my fair share of movies that are absolutely terrible and I absolutely never want to see again. But also I never really consider oh, this is my least favorite movie of all time. But I'm gonna go with one that I literally saw the other day, and I am planning on doing a video on my channel, so everybody listening right now, make sure to subscribe. It's a movie called Aftermath. I don't even know if you've heard of it. It's really bad. Really, really bad. I thought it was probably one of the worst horror movies of all time. It is genuinely one of the worst movies that I've seen, and it sucks. Like, it takes every single bad movie trope and bad filmmaking ever and just puts it all in one movie. It was really bad. Let's move on because I don't like talking about bad movies. What have you learned since quarantine? And the same person also asked top 5 movies you are looking forward to. So since quarantine, I've learned how to use a camera really well, actually. So when quarantine started, I bought the camera that I'm filming on right now. The week before, I went to Best Buy and I bought it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do so much with this camera, and we were locked in our house. It forced me to learn how to use this camera pretty well, in my opinion. Like, the first time I used my camera, the quality was really bad. I also just learned a lot about lighting and just like exposure and just a bunch of stuff having to do with my camera, and I pretty much think I have a pretty good quality now for my videos, and I think it's all due to just me literally being at home and just practicing and learning everything. And also, I also can use this camera to like practice some of my filmmaking and all of that stuff, so that's been pretty good. Another question I got is top 5 movies you are looking forward to, and we're gonna go back to Letterboxd. I do know off the top of my head, Halloween Kills is one that I'm really pumped for. I'm also really excited for Dune, although I kind of want to talk about Dune really quickly. This is gonna be a little bit of a tangent, and then I'll get back to my top 5. But Denis Villeneuve, he's been like really open about how he doesn't really want the movie to be on HBO Max, and he said that so many times, and I slightly agree with him. Like, I get a lot of his points. He's basically saying that his point is that he wants people to experience Dune in IMAX in a theater for the first time, but he's been saying it so many times and bashing the streaming service that, in my opinion, it just sounds kind of privileged. Like, people really just want to see this movie. People want to see Dune, and some people don't feel comfortable going to a movie theater, and some people also don't have the money to go to a movie theater, and they just prefer to watch it at home. And I just think he's creating such a big fuzz for something that, like, you should just be grateful your movie is coming out. I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to think about that situation, because I know, I don't even know if it's a touchy subject, but it's like, it's a very controversial topic in the movie community, and I don't know why he's making such a big fuzz out of it. It's like, it's kind of getting on my nerves, because, like, dude, calm down. A lot of the greatest movies ever made I've seen in my house, and I've loved them just as much as I probably would have if I seen them in the theater. Like Interstellar, for example. I know that movie was probably incredible to see at the movies. I saw it at home for the first time, and it was fine. So, like, his point is just kind of getting a little bit annoying, you know? It sucks for me to say that, but it's kind of just my point with it. But still, Dune is one of my most anticipated of the year. I'm also super excited for Spider-Man No Way Home, and I'm also excited about Ghostbusters Afterlife. I feel like nobody's talking about that movie, but I've been really hyped to see that, and I don't know how many I just mentioned. I mentioned Dune, Halloween Kills, Ghostbusters Afterlife, Spider-Man No Way Home. Another one that I'm looking forward to is Candyman, which I think is coming out in like 2 weeks. I'm so excited for that one. I am pumped. I am so pumped for that, and I love the director. I think she's gonna do an incredible job. And the last questions that I got, another person asked 2 questions. What are some of your new favorite hobbies and any new special videos coming up? So my favorite hobbies, I love playing chess. I've loved playing chess my whole life, but I've really gotten into it lately, and I even have a bunch of chess books, like over there. You can't see it, but there's a bunch of books about chess, and I've been learning and practicing and going to online tournaments. So if any of you guys play chess, let me know, because we should definitely have an online game, because chess is so much fun. I love playing chess. I think it's an awesome game, and I gotta thank the Queen's Gambit for really getting me into chess again. And any new special videos coming up, well, I'm working on my 31 Nights of Horror series, and if you guys don't know what that is, basically I started it last year. Every October I talk about 31 horror movies every single day of October, so I post daily, and that series requires so much prep because I have to post every day, and I have to just plan the videos ahead of time and watch the movies. And I'm buying Halloween decorations very soon. I'm gonna decorate the background of my videos, and I have so many awesome intro ideas planned for each day, and I'm so excited. Like, guys, it's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a good time. And I'm also working on finishing a script for a little short film that hopefully could be released by the end of the year to my channel, but we'll see how that goes. That's pretty much all of the special videos that I think I have coming up, and that wraps all of the questions that I'm going to be answering in today's Q&A. Thank you guys so much for everybody that submitted a question. And if you guys want to submit questions or just keep up to date with me, make sure to follow me on my Instagram at JenniferVMovies. I also have Twitter, which is the same username, JenniferVMovies. And I'm also on Letterboxd, which is just at Jennifer Vega, and obviously YouTube, which is just my name, Jennifer Vega. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode or watching if you're seeing on YouTube, and I hope you guys just enjoyed it. It was laid back, like I said, and I just had a lot of fun talking to you guys. I love each episode of my podcast because it just feels like I'm having a conversation with all of you guys, and just thank you so much for all of your support. I am so excited to just see where this podcast goes because so far it's already had a lot of growth that I was just not expecting, and I'm just so grateful for. And yeah, that's gonna wrap up today's episode, and I'll make sure to see you guys next Friday for another episode. Bye everyone.